Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is how to read a commitment for title insurance, okay? So once you've opened escrow, the title company will go ahead, they have a couple days to go ahead and issue out to you title insurance. Now, whether or not you're the buyer or the selling agent, you will get a copy of the title insurance and you want to review that, okay? So if you're the buyer's agent, the title company will issue that out to you, generally speaking, within 5 days. You need to review that because your client has an opportunity to get out of the contract if they can go ahead and see something on the title report that doesn't meet with their satisfaction. So if you need a quick way to get out of a contract, this is a good way to do it too. So anyway, as you can see, we have the title commitment here. It's been emailed to us. We've gone ahead and turned it up a little bit. You'll see the first section is called Schedule A. Schedule A simply tells you what it is that they're issuing. Okay, so in this particular case, all right, they're issuing out a policy, all right, for Frederick and Russell Samantha Horseman, husband and wife, okay. They are issuing out the policy for the amount of $169, okay. The Alta policy, which is the seller's policy, is for $127, okay, which is what they've got. They're saying they have to disclose the type of estate that they own it in, if it's in fee or what. In this case, it's a fee interest in this land. They also have to go ahead and say the title is effective in Home Sales Incorporated. That's the seller. Now, the land referred to, they put down as Exhibit 1 and made a part. So that's the legal description. And it has the signature of the title officer. Exhibit 1 goes ahead and outlines exactly where the property is. Lot 48, Skyline Hills, Foothills Estates, blah, blah, blah. Then accept this particular portion here, all right? So this is the full legal description of the lot if you were to do like a survey. So you can see thence continues south 88 degrees, 53 minutes, 43 seconds west along west, north, blah, 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 a tangent curve, concave, all this you don't really need to worry too much about because this is simply going to tell you where the property is. That's Exhibit A, all right? Now, Schedule B. This is the part that is the most important, okay? Schedule B tells you what it is that needs to happen in order for this to actually close, all right? So the first thing, obviously, pay the agreed amounts for the interest in the land and or the mortgage to be insured. So obviously they got to come up with the money, all right? Part 2, pay the insurer the premiums, charges, and fees. That's your prepaids, okay? So obviously your insurance company, etc. The third thing that has to happen for the transfer of the title, the taxes and bonds and assessments need to be current. And then number 4, they have to do a warranty deed from the recited owner, who is the bank in this case, to the recited purchaser, who is the Horsemans. This commitment will be subject to further requirements until the purchaser's name is supplied to the company. An REO property, they purchase bulk title policies. And so all of this right here has been around for months. They're just waiting for the buyer. And once they actually have the buyer, then they go ahead and provide this statement here, all right? Additional documents satisfactory to the company, which must be signed, delivered, and recorded, included but not limited to any and all recordable loan documents. So if there's a loan, then they need to go ahead and provide that. Then if there's anybody in writing, anyone who's not referred to in the commitment who will get an interest in the land or will make a loan on the land, then they need to go ahead and make that on the title policy as well. So for example, if they've got their cousin or their sister or their aunt or somebody like that who they're going to give an interest to in the property, then they need to let the title company know that. Now, here's the thing. Number 7, all right, pursuant to Arizona revised statutes, blah, 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 the county recorder may not accept documents, yada, yada, yada. This is the instructions to the preparer of exactly what the deed and all recorded documents need to look like, okay? The margins need to be a 1/2 inch along all sides. It needs to be 10-point type, It can't be any larger than 8.5 by 14 inches. These are just recording documents, okay? That's the requirement. Now, those are standard, okay? If there's any notes for the lender, now they want to let the lender know that, hey, look, if there's anything you want to put on this that needs to be recorded that are not specifically regarding this house that may affect the title, then you need to go ahead and let us know, all right? This is all standard language. You'll see this on almost every single one. Number 2, any conveyances. Now this is sort of a chain, if you will, of title. What you'll see here is the last 24 months or 18 months, or depending on the company, a couple of years generally, usually it's 24 months of title, letting people know who got the property, where and when, okay? So you can see that Executive Trustee Services, LLC, okay, were the people who had the property. They said bought it with Home Sales Incorporated, and this is recorded on the August 18th docket, sequence number 2011-23-00591 of official records. That's the document place where they can find that actual deed where they got it. Then when they actually buy it, then the funds need to be transferred to the bank, U.S. Bank. This is the seller. This is where the money needs to go. Okay. This is the account number as LSI Title Agency, and the SWIFT code, which is the account number. That's where it goes. So that kind of tells the bank where to put the money, or the title company. Now this is probably the most important part for you. Okay. Schedule B, Section 2, exceptions. Now the title company, the title insurance covers everything except these certain things, and this is the part that you really want to pay attention to. Schedule B, A, defects, liens, encumbrances, adverse claims, things like that are in the public records, okay, but are prior to the dates that they agreed to insure. They're not covering that. So if there's any kind of defect prior to this that they didn't see prior to this, insured time, they're not covering it. That's what they're saying here. It's a warranty deed, okay? Western regional exceptions. Now, because we're in Arizona, there are certain exceptions from this title company, okay? The ALTA policy, American Land Title Association policy, the exceptions there are any taxes or assessments that are not shown as existing liens by the records by any taxing authority, okay? So basically, if there are any taxes that are not on the public record, okay, that may result in taxes or assessments, okay, they're not covering them. All right. So if anybody comes along who has a taxing authority on the property, who did not record a lien, something like that, they're not covering that. All right. Any facts, rights, interests, claims that are not shown by the public records, but that could be ascertained by inspection of the land, all right, by any person in possession of the land, they're not covering that either. So if you can't come back and say, well, gee whiz, I didn't know the land was right next to a toxic waste dump. They're not going to cover that title. That's accepted simply because you could have seen that being, right there during your inspection. Any easements, liens, encumbrances, or claims not shown by the public record. Remember, they're insuring what they find on the public record. If it's not on the public record, then they don't cover it. All right. Any encroachment, encumbrance, violation, variation, or adverse circumstance affecting the title that would be disclosed by an accurate and complete land survey of the land, and that is not shown by the public record. So what they're saying is that if you are doing this property and you're the buyer and you could have gone ahead and done a survey, but you didn't, okay, and it's not recorded, all right, and you found that you had your neighbor had 3 feet into your property line a concrete wall, okay, had you done a survey, you would have been able to notice that. All right, but you didn't do a survey. It's not in the public records. Therefore, they're not covering that. They're not going to go ahead and go to court for you for that. Any unpatented mining claims, reservations, or patents on the acts authorizing, water rights, claims to title on water, or anything like that. Water rights are a big deal. If you're out on the northwest side of Morano and selling farmland, you need to know where the water comes from, who has water rights, right? Any lien or right to a lien for services, labor, or material not shown in public records. Those are mechanics liens. All right, mechanics liens in this case, as you may remember in the contract, is simply saying that, look, the seller, you tell the seller, hey, look, I want to get the plumbing fixed. And the seller agrees to it in the bins, and they say, okay, yeah, no problem, I'll do it. They go ahead, they do that, they do the work, but they fail to pay the plumber. 2 months later goes by after you close, the plumber comes back and says, hey, guess what? I never got paid. So they go ahead and they put a mechanic lien on the property, okay? Well, your title insurance doesn't cover that because it wasn't shown in the public record. And it's a lien or a right to a lien, a mechanic's lien, for services, labor, or material that wasn't shown in public record. So they're not going to cover that. So the question is, who covers that? Well, the seller does, because you'll remember for 60, I believe it's 60 previous 90 days prior to the close of escrow, they agree to cover any work that they have done to prevent that. So they would end up going, the buyer would go back to court with the seller to get that paid. Additional exceptions. Okay, well, any property taxes that are not yet due and payable, so you can't go back to them and ask them to pay the title company to pay the taxes, obviously. Property taxes, they're going to disclose what they are. Okay, well, the total bill is in this case $2,400. The first installment was paid. The second is open. So they're saying that according to the Topeka County records that the improvement value on the property is $249. The total amount is $1,207. That it will go ahead and be paid at closing. Prior to the close of escrow, please let them know to determine the current amount of any delinquent taxes. All right, so they'll do that. Taxes, assessments, and whatnot that are imposed by the city, they're not going to cover those taxes. They're not going to cover any lien of supplemental taxes. Supplemental taxes would be things like, like if you had some kind of assessment for street lights, that'd be an example. Water rights, claims to water or title. Okay, water rights are a big deal. Again, they're not going to cover that. Easements shown, except as what they've shown on the recorded plat of the said subdivision. So if there's no easement on there that's not recorded, they're not going to cover that. Any reservations or exceptions in the patents or acts. Basically, this is a statement that says that if there were any other act, any other public document that accepted something or had a reservation for it, for like a title easement or for an easement for a power company or something like that, that's not covered. Any covenants, codes, and restrictions recorded in the public records that said something about, sex, race, color, religion, ancestry, back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, some of these older subdivisions had covenants, codes, and restrictions saying that black people couldn't live there, or Chinese people couldn't live there, or whatever. They're not going to cover those CC&Rs, okay? They're not going to cover anything that goes against the handicapped persons or any kind of protected class, all right? Next, easements. Now they're letting you know there is an electric easement on this property. They say, okay, this is where you find it in docket 3095, page 370 of the official records. It affects that particular parcel of the land. The requirement to record an assignment from GMAC Mortgage, okay? So they're saying that there is a requirement that they have to record an assignment. So GMAC Mortgage, the people who are actually selling this to home sales back then, they have to record that. They're not covering that. And any rights of parties in possession. That would be somebody who's a squatter or a tenant or somebody like that. They may have rights. Well, they're not covering that either. Not going to go to court for you to go ahead and get those people out. So these are all standard types of things. So whenever you see this on your Schedule B, okay, this right here, this is all pretty much a normal Schedule B. So what constitutes an abnormal Schedule B? Well, what you can see on these, right around number 11 or 12, or maybe up towards the top, you'll see, an IRS tax lien. That would be a big one that you could see. That the person has a homeowners association lien against them because they haven't paid their homeowners association dues. That could be something. Another one is confusion about the name. If you have someone whose name is, say, John Smith, then they want to confirm that it's John Smith and not John L. Smith or something like that. That's pretty common when you have common names like John Smith, Juan Lopez, Maria Guadalupe, stuff like that. Okay. Next, that goes down into their standard stuff, how they get their information. Privacy Act, they disclose, with the Privacy Act of 1972, they have to go ahead and tell you where it is that they're getting their information, what they will give it to, who they will not give it to, how they dispose of that information. All this stuff is from the Privacy Act of 1972. They have to go ahead and let you know that. So this is all standard stuff. Transmittal basically says, look, this is what we have. We have the Arizona commitment for this title. And that's that. So that's how you read a title insurance policy. If you have any questions, just let me know. Have a great, powerful day.